Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, where you can sign up to be a member of the Shannons Club, your local Holden certified service centre, Pace Farm the enjoyable egg, and Heron Forbes Machinery House, where you can buy online. Like to see some pretty cool Holdens and a very cool shed? Well, I'm glad that you've said yes, because I've returned to Parks, New South Wales to bring them to you in this week's Classic Restos on the road. Back in Parks, I really love this place. It's home to some really cool stuff, like the dish and the beautiful yellow canola. Well, it was here. George, where's the canola? Where'd it go? The canola, where did canola go? And what's not to love about touring the beautiful country areas of New South Wales? I was here in this area not long ago, and because of that past response, more vehicles have come in. So here we are now to show off some more classics. Meet Rodney and Jenni Barnes. No relation to Jimmy, but when it does come to a working class man, Rodney, a born and bred local, became a builder. After he left school, he was lucky enough to score himself a carpentry apprenticeship, and he scored his wife Jenni, sharing the same passion for nice and old cars. Guess you could say the old two peas in the pod was the perfect match. Some of the family collection here comprises a 1928 Chev Tourer, 3 Ferguson tractors, Jenni's Volkswagen Bug, a Honda CBR900 bike, a few Holden Sandmans, and just other stuff that could keep you walking around here for a day or so just to have a squiz. Great to be back in Parks. How are you, Rod?
Yeah, welcome to Parks, Fletch.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a great place. You live in a very nice part of the world, mate.
Oh, good to see you getting out in the country, out in the sticks. We're pretty happy out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Absolutely. Look, there's lots of cars out here, bikes and trucks, and when people, the ones that can get around and travel around New South Wales and see this great state that we live in, this is what it's all about. And if you can throw in some enthusiasts like this along the way, well, that's got to be a definite bonus, hasn't it?
My word, yeah.
Now, here in your yard, this fantastic 1928 Chev Tourer, original vehicle, last registered by the tag on the screen, 1984, sitting behind us here, idling along. Just beautiful, mate. It's sensational.
Yeah, it was bought by a local property owner in 1936 second hand. At that stage, I believe it was repainted. It was a 1928 model. She had a bit of paint on her, and she
flame out. She's had a bit of a cough.
Oh no, she's just having a bit of a change of idle. Anyway, it was going to be converted to a ute, but it never got that way, so she stayed in the shed. So She is what she is.
To think all these years, now a little bit of history, just quickly, you mentioned before we started filming, something happened to it around 1936, and there's a bit of witness there with the old gold paint underneath.
Yeah. So originally it was a gold-coloured car with black sideboards. I believe in 1936 it might have been in some sort of prang, so she'd be 8 years old at that time, being a 28, and it got a bit of a respray in the green that it presently is. So it's very original except for that spray paint in 1936.
I've got a bit of a soft spot for these. My grandfather had a brand new one in 1929. It was the only car he ever bought. He was on the land, sold due to drought, bought a brand new 29 Chev, and then sold that in the early 30s as we went into the Depression. And he never bought a car ever again. So when I see a 28 or a 29, it just makes me kind of think what it must have been like for when Grandad bought his brand new Chev back in those times.
Hard days, Fletch.
Yeah.
They did it hard.
Interesting too, when we look at the 4-cylinder engine, it's got a shroud around the fan blades. We made cars, Australian cars in the 60s that didn't always come with shrouds around their fan blades. So that's a feature, and also to the depth of the shroud as well, which is something that's interesting.
Yeah, well, often they put shrouds on a Holden, for instance, when it had air conditioning. A shroud went on to help with cooling, of course. This had a shroud on, I believe, because they made the bonnet longer on the 28 Chev for the 6-cylinder motor that ended up in the 29s but didn't end up in the 28. So the longer shroud is to do with the building the bonnet for the 6-cylinder motor.
There you go. Hey, that's nice. A bit of extra room there as well. That little 4-cylinder just sits in there so nice. And the thing is too, you don't drive it every day. It took a bit of cranking this morning to get the old girl going, but that's okay because that's the original characteristic of the car. It's been sitting for a while. If it was getting driven every day, well, of course it'd start a bit quicker the next morning. Yep. But like you say, why mess with that? That's just original all day long with the beauty of this car. Now, your plans for it, Rod, you're obviously at this stage going to leave a be. To see that original seat, you couldn't get that reupholstered. I personally, I think, no. No, you couldn't.
Well, at this stage, while we can use it, we want to leave it as is and put a blanket over it or whatever and use it.
Look, if you're going to do a full-blown resto from the rails up, well, of course you've got to do the upholstery side of it. But, you know, when we see an original vehicle like this, it's aged so evenly from front to rear, you just got to leave that alone.
Well, the only thing newer on it, Fletch, is this cover. It was in the museum in Parks in the 80s sometime, and there was a bit of a fire and the cover burnt or got hot and melted. So this is a newer cover put on in the 80s.
Well, there you go. See, an 80s item on the car, it's classed and looked upon as brand new, isn't it?
Brand new.
When it comes to a vehicle with optional extras, we may automatically think of a later model type car. Filming around this beautiful 1928 Chev, it's hard not to notice some of the features that were ticked in the options column back in the day. You can tell that it's, well, I guess the Calais of the Chev for the time. We look around and we can see little parts of grandeur, pieces of opulent features, such as the glass thermometer sitting on top of the radiator. We look around the top of the doors and we can see some leather sections, some arm protectors there to protect the tops of the doors. We also have some beautiful bronze framework on the outside of the car, proudly displaying Chevrolet. The interior is interesting. When you look around the back of the front seat, you can see original carpet there. Now that's something that I have not seen a lot of. That's something that was later on with cars. To think 1928, getting your leather seat, and for the people in the rear to be faced with some feature carpet, I think that is a pretty special feature as well. We look around the rear of the vehicle, how cool is this? It's an optional luggage rack, and on the inside of the rear doors, we have matte pockets, again with leather over the outside and a chrome-plated latch to keep them closed. Yeah, there's no doubt about it, this is an option vehicle for 1928, back from a different time, when people had different respects for each other and different values. There would have been no jeans and t-shirt worn by the man that bought this brand new. A time of respect, of wearing polished boots, suit pants, waistcoat, suit jacket. Back in an era where there was respect. A car was an extension of the person that owned it and drove it. A person used to wear their motor car.
I've been a motoring enthusiast all my life. My Coupe 4 is rare and very special. A real performance car with all-wheel drive grip. I'm not a car club bloke and I don't work on it myself, but I do have a great mechanic. One day, I might even get that HQ. When it comes to insurance, it's got to be Shannons.
Shannons shares your passion. Call Shannons on 13 46 46. Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts.
When it comes to cars, there are some brands that will remain with us forever, no matter what. The Holden was always Australia's own car, held high in the hearts of many. Those lines, that chrome, the stories around them, and the people that owned them. From the classic through to the final. You can still trust in genuine Holden and AC Delco parts, available through the Holden Certified Service Network. Welcome back. How are you, Jenny?
I'm very well, thank you, Fletch.
That's great. Love your panel van.
I love it too.
Now we're talking 1977 HZ,
Yes, we are.
one of the first.
Yes, it's one of the first after the HX.
I don't know what it is whenever I look at these Holdens. They remind me of Statesman all day long. I don't know if it's because of the beautiful sports dashboard that they've got, but they've just got a more of an upmarket feel about them, don't they?
Well, they do. I don't know. I didn't really sit in Statesman's very much. We weren't that well off. My family car was a Combi, actually, and a Beetle. But when I met Rodney, he had this. Not this one, but one exactly the same.
So when he was courting you, he had this
He was
vehicle?
courting me, he had a vehicle just like this.
Yeah.
Turned up in Forbes and invited me to the drive-in, and the rest is history.
Yeah, there you go, see. That's where it all began, hey, Jenny?
Yes, it is, yes.
What a cool car to have today. The condition of it is absolutely superb. How long has it been restored for?
Since 2010 we bought it and we gutted it totally. We just took it apart and gradually just made it what we used to have. Even underneath the paint was still the blackouts, so we knew it was a definite genuine Sandman.
Genuine 253 4-speed car as well.
Yes, Rodney built the motor with a friend of ours from Cowra, and it's done 60,000 kilometres since we put it in. We've been everywhere in it. We've driven to Charters Towers, we've driven to Barmera, we've taken it to Victoria, to Motorex, to Summer Nationals, and it's been a fun car to drive in. And when we get in it, we're 18 and 22 again.
You get plenty of looks.
Yes, we do.
How cool is this? How cool is this? This is really Holden's entry into the market. Well, I mean, HQ they started. It really tapped on the lifestyle market, didn't it?
Yes, well, HQ's birthday this year, it's 50 years actually since they, not Sandmans, but since they produced HQs, and they made the Sandman in the HQ in the last 6 months of 74, so there's not many of them about. We have a friend with one.
What's the colour of it, Jenny?
Jasmine yellow.
Love the decals.
Yes, we got those from, can I do a plug for Stick This Auto?
Sure.
Stick This from, he's putting on the Van Nationals next year. Yep. He organised them. They seem to be the best, and they're screen printed on vinyl.
Good on you, Jenny. That's well done. Well, thank you very much for being a part of this episode. How blessed are you here? Beautiful part of central west of New South Wales. Great premises here with husband Rod. You've got your toys here, some great sheds. I love your memorabilia. I mean, you're just really set up well here, aren't you?
Yes.
Where did you get all your tins from, Jenny?
Well, some of them I buy from eBay, swap meets. Rodney does building reports, and if he finds one under a house, he brings it out, and we ask the owner whether I can buy it, or they usually give them to me. Just come across them, people say...
No tins are allowed under any building. That's what's in the report. Any tins that are found, out they come. No, those 3 tins there, they're not allowed. I'll remove them for you, don't worry. I'll take them to the tip for you. Yeah, right, yeah. They end up back here.
Well, they do end up back here. My brother-in-law goes out to one of the local country tips and he finds them and digs them out of the ground for me, and I just love them, and people seem to know that, and they ring me and say, I've got a couple of these, what do you think? And then I come and buy them from them. Or
What is it? What is it with this old stuff? The stuff that used to get thrown out. It meant nothing to anybody once upon a time. We've come all these decades, and we see these old tins and old bottles, and they just mean so much. It just taking us back to our childhood. It's just something about that.
I think you're right. I think it is. It's what we used to have, and it's what we were brought up with. So it goes with cars, fuel, oil, Sandmans, and it's just nice to collect what we used to have.
Good on you, Jenny. Well, you're the coolest chick on the block with this car here, so well done. Keep up your great work.
Thank you, Fletch. Thanks for coming to Parks.
That's all right. You're very welcome. Thank you.
This Sandman panel van means everything to us because this is what we had when we were young, and all the boys had them, and all the boys were trying to do everything, modify their non-Sandman vans to have a GTS dash and a twin headlight front end and chrome diff and everything that was, and Holden decided that they'd do this and make a pack, a Sandman pack it was called, an XX7 actually, but it wasn't I mean, back when I was growing up, we didn't really care if it was a Sandman or not. It was fun to get in. We'd hook the boat on Friday night and off we go to Lake Jellicoe. I mean, in the city, the boys would all go to the beach, but we didn't have a beach living in central west New South Wales, so we'd go out to Lake Jellicoe and water ski all weekend. Rodney and I wouldn't have to pitch a tent because we just slept in there. There was cupboards for our clothes. We'd take a fry pan and cook our food in it. An esky. Rodney actually rigged up a little fridge in there for his beers, and that was our weekend. It was an hour and a half away. We'd go there and come back on Sunday night and work the next day, and most of summer that was every second weekend and long weekends, and that was our life. Obviously the drive-in, we'd go to the drive-in, we'd back it in, we'd sit on bean bags in the back with our friends and watch a movie, or we would just sit in the back of it on a mattress because everyone had a mattress. It was just fun. What I love about this car is when I drive it, I change through the gears, it sounds amazing, everybody looks at you, and I just love it. It's just freedom, I think, freedom.
The Sandman was originally launched with the HQ back in 1974. It came as a panel van and a ute. These new introductions by Holden instantly increased Holden's presence in the growing recreation and lifestyle market. The Sandman continued into the HJ Holden 1974 to 1976, then HX Holden from 76 to 1977, rounding off with the HZ series. The final HZ Sandman featured a choice of V8 engines only, and a quick fun fact: if a buyer selected every Sandman Extra, the price would have been more than 150% of the cost of the basic HZ model. By the end of 1979, the Sandman had largely lost its place in the cool car category, and the rest was history. Funny, it's now some 40 years later, and these Sandmans are one of the coolest Holdens in anyone's shed.
Every weekend around Australia, motoring enthusiasts get together to share their passion for cars and bikes. It's a passion that brings us together. All sorts of people, all sorts of cars and bikes, from the classics of today to the classics of tomorrow. At Shannons, we understand enthusiasts, so when it comes to insurance, it's got to be Shannons. Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
They may not be making the classic Holden anymore, but the legacy lives on. You can still have a Holden certified service using genuine Holden and AC Delco quality parts at over 180 centres across Australia. Go to holden.com.au to find your nearest centre. Book your Holden in, maintain the pride. And when you get a moment, don't forget to give Shannons a call for a quote and a chat on 134646. Perhaps there's some memorabilia that you would like to have insured. And becoming a member of the Shannons Club has never been easier. For more information, visit shannons.com.au. Welcome back. Time for another Sandman on today's show. How you doing, Rod?
Good, thanks, Fletch. How are you?
Good, mate, good. This is beautiful. I can't really remember the last time I saw a Sandman Ute, especially not in this condition. Now, we're talking HX mid-77, correct?
Correct, yeah. Sandman Utes weren't as popular as Sandman vans, but obviously the vans were more the surf scene, the coastal scene, and the Utes were obviously the farmer sons. So there's not as many of them about, but they are a nice Ute.
Beautiful example. I think being a Ute too obviously makes it even more special in some respects. It's special seeing a van, but a Ute. So what's the history? What can you tell us?
I don't know much about it. I bought it in Goulburn, around that area. I think it originally was from the Alpine country, like in the snowfields. The books show its service being done in that sort of area through its life. And I've owned the Ute for about 8 years. Done a bit of spray, closed door respray on it pretty much, otherwise it was in pretty good condition, and a bit of stuff inside, a bit of interior stuff. But no, she's a good thing to have.
It looks like a full resto, Rod.
Yeah, we didn't touch the engine bay, and underneath, I really didn't need to do underneath. It was good enough. There was just a bit of rust in the roof above the doors and a little bit in the sills. Otherwise, she was fixed that up, and then we were only going to touch up the paint, and then we decided to do a full closed door respray.
And again, mate, that original GDS Dash 2?
Yeah, the GDS 4-speed 253, of course. Yeah, nice looking, and the GDS wheels. Yeah.
You must feel pretty good to be able to say that you have these cars. They're a popular Holden back in their day. The lifestyle market, it really typified that era. So all these decades down the track, and not only have you got these Holdens, but you've got beautiful examples of these cars.
Yeah, well, I had a HZ Sandman Jasmine Yellow during my younger years, 20 plus, and of course you've interviewed Jenni with that car. So I had that, and that was a nice car to own, and we wanted to get back into the Sandman, so we bought that car and restored it, of course.
I remember as a kid in the 70s, panel vans, the extent that they used to go to back then, they did some incredible stuff to panel vans back in those times.
Oh, there's lots of modifications to panel vans, Fletch. When you start collecting things, you get this bug, so then I built another van which is called it's my green van, it's called the Player, and we built it to the extent of what you would have liked to have done in the day with side pipes and wide wheels and a bit of a stroker motor. But of course, having those two doesn't complete the set until you have a Sandman Ute. So it become available. Couldn't find a HZ, so this HX come up, and that's how I come across it.
Mate, it was the final piece to the puzzle, wasn't it?
Yeah, my word, yeah. So having three Sandmans. Just on our cars, locally, we've been able to restore these locally. And a guy called Adam Pay Restorations has been very important part of us restoring our cars and having them in pristine condition that they are now.
Now, Rod, speaking of bugs, now, being at home, into your Volksies and your Dak-Daks, I like to look after your fraternity as well. You try to on Classic Restos. You try and, cover as many brands as you possibly can. You alluded to Jenni's Beetle earlier. Now, she's a Sandman girl, but she's also got the Volkswagen over there. So just quickly, what can you tell us about that?
Well, Volkswagen was important to her. She was actually born England, and her family from England. They were 10-pound migrants. So they actually come out from England with their Combi and their Bug as part of their gear. And so she likes Volkswagens from being a kid in England having Volkswagens.
Rodney, well, I've had a fantastic day here today. This is great, allowing us to hear to your yard, to your sheds, just a little of what you have in your sheds. I think we're going to be back.
Yeah, thanks, Fletch, and thanks for Classic Restos for coming to town and spreading the word on historic cars.
Well, it's always a pleasure, and I do have to thank Jo Burton. Now, Jo is our Shannons representative. She's based in Forbes, does a lot in parks and this area of central New South Wales, and she does a wonderful job on the behalf of Shannons. And she knows where you guys are, mate.
Yeah, well, Jo's a member of our car club, actually, and Jo organised the runs. She's the girl that organised that, and she's very active in our car club and a real good participating member.
Well, Rod, it goes without saying, something very special for you now. You're into your Holdens. That makes you a Holden legend, so please accept this Holden Legends cap. Good on you there, buddy. How's that?
Thank you very much, Fletch, and thank you to Holden.
You're more than welcome, Rod. And thank you very much for your time out today, showing me around your sheds and making this episode very special here in Parks. Greatly appreciate it, and be back next time to see what else you got.
Thanks, Fletch. This Sandman Ute behind me, this HX, is important to us because it completes our collection. We have two Sandman vans in a HZ, and I feel that the van just completes the collection of cars. Of course, we've got a HZ station wagon as well. It'd be nice to have a car to go with that, but time might fix that up for us. But anyway, the HX Sandman is more they're a country-owned car rather than the city panel van thing. And they were sort of owned by farmers' sons in the day, but it's a nice car to own. It's lovely to take it out for a drive. You've got the V8, of course, and the 4-speed, and it was a great combination of Holden with V8 4-speed. It just gives you that ability or that feel of a sports car in a way. Did I ever think I'd end up with Sandmans? Fletch, When we had a family and had to sell my Sandman van in around the late 80s, 87, 88, couldn't give a panel van away then. They'd done their time. Had to drop the price dramatically to sell it because we wanted a wagon, we'd had kids. Did I think I'd want a Sandman? No. But as the years went by, that part of that van was missing in your life. The kids then went to uni. So the kids are gone, the van come back. And so therefore we're reliving our youth.
Well, that's it. Some of the vehicles owned by Rodney and Jenni Barnes here in Parkes, New South Wales. I hope you enjoyed the show. Until next week, no matter where you're watching Classic Restos from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, there's nothing quite like a ground-up resto. And keep in mind, you got to start somewhere. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ClassicRestosTV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, where you can sign up to be a member of the Shannons Club, your local Holden certified service centre, Pace Farm the enjoyable egg, and Heron Forbes Machinery House, where you can buy online.